Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Foundations of Herbalism. I am your instructor, Ustad Amira, and this is the lesson on herbal terms. Alhamdulillah, I pray all is well and that you've been able to follow through with the lessons and you have understood everything that is being taught so far. Alhamdulillah, I pray that you are also keeping things organized and having things in order. If you have any questions, then as usual, you can email me or meet me on Skype at the Skype office hours, inshallah. Thank you so much. I pray this audio is beneficial. The importance of herbal terms. So doing your herbal studies and reading various books and things like that, you'll come across many terms. Learning the terms will help you with a proper approach to ailments. So for example, if someone came to you and he had a stomach ailment, would you choose an expectorant or carminative herb? If you were working with another herbalist and you were discussing the problem and this herbalist said to you, well, what herb should we use? Should we go with a carminative or should we go with an expectorant? Now, how would you choose? How would you know which herb to pick if somebody asks you that question? So carminative herbs are herbs that are used to help with digestion-related matters, indigestion, bloating, gas, stomach ache, and then expectorant herbs are herbs that are said to help with loosening chest congestion. And so you would be able to answer appropriately and say, well, let's look into finding the right combinative herb for this particular situation. And that will be helpful for you in working with your clients by knowing the terms. It just helps to better your advantage in helping yourself and others. Another thing about learning the herbal terms is that they will constantly be used. So they're constantly being used all the time. You'll find them in different books when you're reading about different herbal properties. It might say it's an emmenagogue. It might say it's a carminative. It might say it's an adaptogen. And it might say it's a diuretic and things like that. So you want to be familiar with the terms as much as you can to help understand what your book is saying, to help better understand your lessons. How can you learn these herbal terms? Well, use them often to increase memory of them. When you're writing your book, write down the name, the common name, the botanical name, and then write its key properties. Writing that it's a carminative herb, writing that it's also an expectorant. Because one herb can do one particular function doesn't mean that's all that this herb can do. For example, talking about ginger, ginger is considered to be a carminative herb, which means it is said to be helpful for digestive related matters. And also, ginger is said to be an emmenagogue. An emmenagogue is an herb that promotes menstruation. And so just because we define an herb by a particular term for a certain situation doesn't mean that's all this herb can do. And one of the things that I express to people is that no matter how many herbs you have, the great thing is that herbs provide a variety of functions and can be used in a variety of ways. So you may not be able to expand your herbal apothecary a lot, but you will find that you can use an herb for many ailments. So this is one of the wonderful things about herbalism is because you can prepare an herb in a variety of ways, and it can be used for multiple ailments and situations. So I might have nausea, and then I could use ginger to help with the nausea. Or my menstruation cycle might not have come on, and having a strong decoction of ginger could just bring about menstruation. So as I said, you can use it in a variety of ways, and so don't be too worried that if you just have 4 or 5 herbs in your herbal apothecary at the moment, because as we learn about the herbal terms, you'll learn that your herbs that you have can be used for a number of instances, and that's the great thing about the herbs, alhamdulillah. So you don't have to put them in a box. It's not just that this is it for it. So just because ginger is a carminative doesn't mean that it can only be used for carminative related matters and that's it. For instance, lemon balm has antiviral properties And it's also considered to be a carminative herb as well, which means it's also good for digestion. It's antiviral. It has strong antiviral properties. So it's an herb that I would consider having for during the cold and flu season. Also, lemon balm is said to help with fevers. So, as you can see, lemon balm has a variety of properties. It's also a nerve tonic, which you'll learn about as you go through this particular lesson. Lemon balm being a nerve tonic, which means that it's been good for treating anxiety, mild depression, irritability, restlessness, and so on. And so, as you can see, just from that one herb alone, having lemon balm, and you have a carminative, you have an antiviral, you have an antispasmodic, and you have an herb that's good for fevers. So that's 4 properties that I named so far from just one herb. And then you can use that herb in a variety of ways. So you can use that herb as a tea. It can be a compress. You can have it as an oil and things like that. So, alhamdulillah, that's an example. And that's the importance of learning the herbal terms, because you'll come into terms like this herb is antispasmodic, this herb is an adaptogen, this herb is a nervine, and things like that. And you'll understand what it means because you learned the terms, because they do not go away. You will find that you will be constantly running into these terms all throughout your herbal journey, throughout your herbal books, in other herbal classes as well. And so it's not something that you can avoid. It's not something that you learn for the moment and then that's it. It's something that will you will come across for a very long time, and it will be part of your herbal life. So already get a chance to start working on committing them to memory by various things, such as making flashcards with the herbal terms to study them. As I said about with botanical names and things like that, when you're talking about herbs, even if you're talking about them amongst yourself or with other people, use the specific terms about them. If you have somebody come up to you and they're talking about they have a lot of chest congestion, what can they do? Well, then talk about using an expectorant herb and talk about, well, this is an expectorant herb. It's considered to be an herb that helps loosen chest congestion, things like that. You'll find that the more you share the information, the more it helps you reinforce what you have learned, and helps commit it to memory. The more you talk about it, then the more it helps you as well. Even when I'm talking to my friends, I will tell them about different plants, and then I will use the botanical name, and I let them know it's the botanical name, and these are the properties, some of the properties about this particular herb. And it's a lot for my benefit and for theirs as well, because they learn something new. So don't be afraid to share your information with others. Find another herbalist in your local area that you can team up with to discuss these terms. Talking to other people is really helpful with committing things to memory. I find a lot of times that even teaching the classes like this, or when I'm working with children and teaching them, it's really helping me in a lot of ways. In teaching them, I'm helping myself too. So you'll find that the herbal terms are of importance, and you'll see that the PDF that goes with this audio is full of herbal terms, a lot of herbal terms. You may not memorize them through this whole course or just for this particular lesson, but use them consistently. Keep referring back to them. It's definitely something that you want to have in your notes, in your materia medica. Put it in your materia medica as well. We'll get into that and how you can enhance your materia medica in a variety of ways. But as I said, the PDF that comes with the audio has a lot of terms, and I won't go through all of them in this particular audio. We'll go through a few just to get an idea of herbs that go with those particular actions, and just a little bit of idea of what some of these terms mean. But yes, it's something that you definitely want to print and have on hand. It's very interesting, the terms that are used in our herbal studies, and how we can really help other people and ourselves with particular situations by knowing these terms. They're here for a reason. So alhamdulillah, it's very important, and I decided that when I started the curriculum that it would be a lesson worth having to discuss the importance of herbal terms. Abortifacient herbs. There are herbs that can promote abortion. Well, this is controversial for a number of reasons. We're not promoting abortions. This is just for informational purposes, because it is a term that comes up. And then you also, it's just good for your overall awareness. So, for example, if you want to use an herb to help a woman that's pregnant, but you pick a herb that is an abortifacient. But how did you know it's an abortifacient? You would have to have studied that term to know and have an idea of certain herbs that fall into that category. So it's for informational purposes. You don't want to make a mistake and use an herb that you should not be using it, and especially at an inappropriate time. So abortifacients are controversial for a number of reasons. One, a lot of herbalists tend to not want to promote abortions, especially because of the Hippocratic Oath about not causing harm. And so therefore a lot of herbalists believe that they are causing harm by supplying an abortifacient herb, which is said to be should be given 3 months in the first 3 months of pregnancy. But yes, so that it becomes part of that issue. Also, another issue is that just the fact of that this could be a very dangerous situation. It could be potentially harmful for the woman who is being given the abortifacient. For example, taking the abortifacient and then having a miscarriage, an abortion could potentially cause the mother some issues. This is a safety matter. We don't want to administer herbs in cases of where we could potentially harm someone else. With that will be a problem for us liability wise. It's unsafe and not what we are doing. We're here to help people and service people, of course, and we're here to benefit them and do healing. So we don't want to harm. They should be avoided. For example, one of the herbs that is considered to be an abortifacient is pennyroyal, which you can see pictured. Should be avoided. Be mindful. Read about it for informational purposes. There are books out there that are available that do talk about abortifacient herbs. And then there are some herbalists who do use them and have treated clients with them and even animals. So it's just to err on the side of caution, best to avoid. So we're not a stranger to the fact that herbs have been used for women and fertility and infertility type matters for ages. There are herbs that can be used as implantation preventers, herbs that cause abortions, and herbs that promote the chances of getting pregnant. So this information is not new. It's in terms of abortifacients, it's quite dangerous. So even if you search, even with a Google search of the term abortifacient herbs, there are many websites that give herbs that can be used for abortions and how to use them, and that is really particularly unsafe to do. Definitely strongly not advisable to do such a thing. Okay, so when we're talking about abortifacient herbs, let's just go over a few stats about that. So basically, according to the World Health Organization, every 8 minutes, a woman in a developing country will die of complications arising from an unsafe abortion. Let's define what an unsafe abortion is for starters. It is defined as a procedure for terminating an unwanted pregnancy carried out by either a person lacking the necessary skills or basically an environment that does not conform to minimum medical standards, or both. And so it is said that that's every 8 minutes, and that's really something that's scary. So using herbs that promote bleeding and cramping and things like that is something that in this particular instance of as far as terminating a pregnancy is just highly controversial and unsafe. It's said that generally the numbers might have changed, but some of 68,000 women die of unsafe abortion annually, making it one of the leading causes of maternal mortality. So, of the women who survive these unsafe abortions, they end up having complications later on. And so it's a very pressing issue. It's very serious, not to be taken lightly, and therefore something we do not promote and condone and offer our services towards. Of course, everyone makes their own personal choices, but I highly recommend not to even approach abortifacient herbs. Just be aware of which ones are abortifacient herbs, and so that for the educational purposes and information purposes, so they can be avoided, because you do need to know what they are, so that way if you are ever working with a pregnant woman and helping her with herbal treatments, then there are some herbs that you want to just be cautious about. Even with breastfeeding, and there are certain herbs that will decrease the milk supply. And then you want to know about that as well, so that way you can avoid giving a woman who is breastfeeding herbs that will decrease her breast milk. It's very important to know the herbal properties, and even in terms of medicine. We'll get into that topic a little later about pharmaceuticals and herbal drug interaction. But yes, so it's important for your safety to make sure you know which herbs to avoid, and abortifacients are herbs that you definitely want to avoid. Adaptogen herbs. In a society of the hustle and bustle of life, going out, working daily, with the political climate, crime rates, and concern about finances, adaptogen herbs are an herb that is truly beneficial in our society nowadays. This is a word that many people should get to know. Adaptogens are herbs that help a person's body respond to stress appropriately, and they help provide whatever the body needs to help them get through the situation. They help the body adapt to the stressful situation. And what person does not need that kind of herb? Now, like I said, this society warrants this kind of things, where people are so stressed out and they have a lot on their plate, and with things changing, and with political issues, and even with dealing with stress and anxiety, feeling overwhelmed, it's good to have an herb on hand that will help your body get through these trying times. Now, that's not to say that it's going to eliminate your stress. So that's not to say that you drink it and you say, I'll never be stressed again. No, this helps your body respond appropriately in a healthy way to the situation. There are some people who get stressed out, they start to have hives, they get rashes, things like that. Because they're stressed out, their body starts to respond to the stress. With an adaptogen herb, this helps your body keep it balanced, keep it going. It helps with your adrenal glands, and it just keeps the body functioning to deal with the situation, to deal with the response to the situation that you're in. So I always recommend an adaptogen herb for mothers, for people who are working, just people who are going through many life changes. I know from personal example, with my grieving, I do tend to go to adaptogen herbs. Two examples of adaptogen herbs is holy basil, which is known as tulsi, and also ashwagandha. And these are used for this particular thing. They are known adaptogens, and I've had great results with holy basil personally from my overall experience going through the traumatic experience of losing my husband, rahimahullah, a couple months ago. And my body did not respond appropriately dealing with the situation. Having someone so close to you pass away, and then my body decided that it would respond in not the best of ways. So my immune system wasn't doing so great. I would get sick faster, and it would stay longer. My body would break out into a rash and things like that. Things that I have not ever experienced before prior to happened once he passed away. So I had to really nurture my body and take care of it in a way that it could respond better to the situation. So I started looking more into adaptogens, and and holy basil became one of my herbal allies, something to consider in the hustle bustle of day-to-day life. Okay, there are herbs with carminative properties. These are herbs that are said to be good for the digestive system. So to name a few of those herbs, there's anise, ginger, fennel, cayenne, peppermint, to name a few. These herbs are said to help with relaxing the stomach muscles and reducing gas. They're said to be good for indigestion, bloating, stomach aches, and colic. So cognitive herbs are herbs that you definitely want to have on hand for digestive related matters. Um, they're aromatic, which means a lot of them have a very strong smell to them. And you'll find that it's very interesting that you'll find a lot of carminative herbs that are used in cooking. Like as far as um, ginger, you can use in your food, cayenne too as well, part of your food. So that's something that we'll discuss later on in the culinary part of herbalism. But these are herbs that can help with digestion. So imagine if we put it with our foods and how that might help out with as far as when we're eating already, or just taking them prior to meals and after meals. So combinative herbs are good for stomach related, digestion related matters. Emmenages are herbs that promote menstruation, herbs such as parsley, motherwort, false unicorn, pennyroyal, etc. So, what is the thing about emmenages is that they are also fall into the category and can fall into the category of abortifacients. So, it is said that if a person was expecting their cycle and they didn't get it, that you would drink this drink an herb that is an emmenagogue around the time that you were expecting your period, and it will bring it on. Also, if you were possibly pregnant and wish not to be, then drinking a menstrual promoter a week or so before your expected flow would be used to cause an abortion. So, as I said, ginger can be used as an emmenagogue. What's interesting about that is because we're going through various points about different herbal properties, and ginger has come up more than once. Ginger is something that's not to be taken lightly. I know people might be surprised as you're listening to the audio that ginger could be used to promote a menstrual flow. But if you take and use ginger as a decoction, then it would be possible to start your menstruation cycle. So, for example, there was an herbalist who said that her friend did not come on their cycle, but after they drank a Jamaican ginger beer, they had their menstrual cycle was able to come on. There are other menstrual promoters as well, such as tansy leaves, and as I said, pennyroyal leaves, and also it is said that vitamin C can be in emmenagogue as well. Something definitely to look into. There are quite a few emmenagogues out there, and it's said that for other examples, one of my favorite herbs, lemon balm, can be used as an emmenagogue. Black cohosh, blue cohosh, and European vervain, feverfew, ginger root, life root, hyssop, and there are quite a few others that can be used. You don't want to exceed the recommended dosages for these emmenagogues. So with all herbs, especially herbs that promote bleeding, you definitely want to use with caution, making sure that you are doing the proper dosage for the herbs and very much so being monitoring it. Um, there are herbs that will bring a late period about 60% of the time, such as angelica root. Um, Especially if the expected menstruation cycle is no more than 2 weeks overdue. So angelica root will be good for that. Tansy, rue, saffron, and there are books that that talk about immunologists and how much to use and what type of method is best to use to promote a menstruation cycle. You also have herbs that are considered febrifuges, or also known as diphoretics. Basically, a diaphoretic febrifuges is a remedy that induces the body to increase its amount of perspiration. So this is a really good herb to have on hand to help with fevers and just eliminating toxins. It helps with eliminating toxins through the skin to cleanse the body, used in treating fevers and infections affecting the whole system. They help the body get rid of the infection or fevers, and it's said to be done in a short amount of time. So there are herbs that fall in this category. Some of the herbs are cayenne, catnip, ginger, thyme, and yarrow. And if you take a look at this photo here of my beautiful kitten Ollie, he is in a pot of catnip. Catnip for cats is an aphrodisiac, but for us, catnip is not an aphrodisiac, but it's a relaxant and it's calming. Jeffrey Klaus, the author of Back to Eden, once said that if every mother had catnip herb on her shelf, it would save her many sleepless nights and her child much suffering, because catnip is good to have for children, and it's calming. So if you're irritable, restless, and catnip is something to have great on hand. It's calming. So febrifuges are good for that, and they have been used in times of like flu, and helpful for cold and flu season, things like that. So you want to have febrifuges on hand. Just like with adaptogens, nervines are something great to have on hand. Where a lot of us are jittery, we're on edge, we're antsy, we're not sure what's happening, what's going on, we're getting nervous, and we need something that will support the nervous system. And so there's a variety of herbs that can do that, such as motherwort. Motherwort is also good for if you have heart palpitations and hyperactive thyroid. Lemon balm, which is a relaxant, it's also antiviral, a carminative herb as well. Skullcap, which is a good sedative, and valerian, which is another good sedative. So, anxiety and stress can be pretty overwhelming, and with things happening, there are a lot more people who are very concerned about the future, about their well-being, and about their life and what's happening with the climate of today. So having a nervine is great to have on hand. So the problems that we have inside when it comes with stress and things like that can manifest itself physically. I remember being stressed out and having all kinds of issues happening with my body because of stress. So stress can be it can have a very negative impact on the body. Stress is not to be taken lightly because it can physically manifest itself, and it can be emotionally draining and mentally frustrating. So nervines have the properties of calming and relaxing and taking care of the nervous system. These are good for, and a lot of these are good for the cardiovascular system. Also, with nervines, you have to be careful because some of them, such as skullcap and valerian, are heavy sedatives. So you want to be mindful of not using those when you need to go out, if the children are up and you have to be on alert before you drive, things like that. You don't want to use the heavy sedatives at those particular times. You want to use a milder sedative, such as chamomile and lavender, things like that, that are not so heavy, like skullcap and valerian, which some people use for in cases of insomnia. Sticking to the topic of nervines can be also relaxants, herbs that help with stress and tension, such as chamomile, lavender, mistletoe, cramp bark. Um, in the cases of stress and anxiety, a nervine relaxant can help to alleviate that condition. So, alhamdulillah, what's very awesome about herbs is that it's good for your whole being. So, as we go through the course and as we learn more and more about herbs, we learn that they are useful for a variety of concerns, conditions, particular systems in the body, such as the nervous system. We talked about the nervines, respiratory system, herbs that are good for the lymphatic system, digestive system, the skin, reproductive system, colds and flus, stings, bites, things like that, nausea, stomach aches, lots of things that alhamdulillah, we can use herbal remedies for that can help our situation. Alhamdulillah. So it's amazing how Allah fashioned it, that these plants that we have in our yard or in our local grocery store or in gardens have so much potential that we should really tap into, alhamdulillah, because Allah has left it here for us. So we should really benefit from it. And this is what the courses are for, to really help us unlock that that potential, help us to unlock the fact that we can use these plants if we really learned how. So knowing herbal properties and knowing herbal terms will help you to address situations such as herbs that are good for the nervous system and the digestive system, like we talked about the carminative herbs, and then herbs that are good for the respiratory system, such as we're talking about expectorants, which help to loosen congestion. Also herbs that are good for the skin, such as herbs like calendula and chickweed, things like that. So alhamdulillah, as we go through the process of learning more about herbalism and learning more about herbal terms, it'll become basically a very good habit to have, knowing the definitions of terms and putting them in their proper place for which the time that you can use the herb for what particular system and things like that. So alhamdulillah, for your assignment, you're going to look at the herbs that you have on hand and write the properties of those herbs. So look at the terms that are mentioned in the PDF to help you when defining your herb, just in case you may forget what's an expectorant or a nervine and things like that, and use the PDF. I also recommend that you copy the PDF and have the PDF available in your materia medica, your herbal notebook, or your studying notebook, and to have that available on hand, because as I said, the terms will continuously come up throughout the course and throughout your herbal studies and your herbal books, and I'm talking with other herbalists and sitting down and listening to herbal classes. There will be terms that will continue to come up that you will definitely be familiar with if you choose to continuously put them into memory. So look at the herbs that you have in your collection and then name the properties that you have for those herbs. If you have one of the books that I recommended for the course or required for the course about the herbal encyclopedia, then that will be a helpful tool in labeling what herbs are have specific properties, which properties oils, and so that type of book helps with that. Also, so inshallah, if you have any questions about the assignment or anything else pertaining to the class, don't forget to reach me on my Skype office hours, and email me at traditionalmuslimah@gmail.com or ibnseenausa@gmail.com. Assalamu alaikum.